Do you think you're actually working your abs with leg raises? Well, you aren't. But I feel it in my abs. Well, I'm Joey Thurman. I'm here to tell you that it's not really working your abs. Leg raises, you see them all the time. People doing a leg raise where it's going to 90-degree flexion, like, oh, I feel it in my abs. There's somebody throwing their legs down. Or you're doing a leg raise or a knee raise on a pull-up machine, something along those lines. Now, you feel like you're working your abs, but you're not, and I'm here to tell you why. So when you're working leg raises, you think that you want to work your rectus abdominis. Now, your rectus abdominis, yes, I'm gonna grab the marker here, is the origin, right? Your pubic region here, it comes here, and the insertion right on around the xiphoid process. So this is giving you your six-pack, okay? Now, as you notice here, this does not cross my hip joint, okay? When you want to work a muscle, it has to cross the joint. Now, what's happening is flexion of the hip flexors. I don't need that anymore. Okay, so when you're going to 90-degree flexion, there's 11 muscles involved in that 90-degree hip flexion. Now, that's abductors, adductors, rectus femoris, TFL. They all coordinate with the iliopsoas, which is deep inside as well, which that's part of the reason why you're feeling it in your abs, because that's working. And one thing is, if you have an anterior pelvic tilt here, now these leg raises are going to be even worse for you, because all you're doing is exacerbating a problem of tight hip flexors. And I'll have a video on how to fix the anterior pelvic tilt. Now, rectus abdominis, as I said, is forming the abdominals, but why do you feel it? What's happening when you're feeling it is your spine is forced to resist the resistance of the legs coming down, which is causing a isometric contraction. Now you think, oh, maybe that's good. Isometric contraction. What's happening there though, as that resistance gets greater and greater, your spine will end up popping up here. Oof. You see that? That's why people always say, try to keep your lower back flat. What's happening? The weight of the legs coming down here, isometrically contracted by the rectus abdominis, those spinal flexors and those obliques, and eventually this is going to prevent the spine from extending, or you're going to get that arch, that rectus abdominis, that TVA, which is the deep muscles that we really want to work and engage, are feeling worked along with that psoas. So that will cause diminishing of a nerve cavity, so you feel a pinching in your nerve, right? But wait a minute, I feel it, isometric contraction, that should be good, right? Yes, it's good, but not with the leg raise. As I said, you're just overworking those already tight muscles of the hip flexors, okay? Now, if you want to actually do that and you want to work isometric contraction, the exercise to do is some sort of a plank. I've got all sorts of variations of planks, so you can check those out, or even do like a quadruped, which is really great for transverse abdominal activation. Okay? Got it? Great. Now, if you want to work your abs and feel it more in the lower abs, we need to get to spinal flexion, which is the main thing that's happening with that rectus abdominis, okay? We're gonna try to bring that rib cage down towards that pubic region, spinal flexion, rectus abdominis, rectus, upright abdominals, upright abdominals. Did you ever think about that? Great. Okay, so we want to get to that spinal flexion. So how do we take the exercises that you feel it and make them more efficient? We want to influence by getting that flexion, the spinal flexion, and you can't isolate lower abs, by the way. You only flex towards origin and insertion, as I drew so poorly right here, okay? So let's take your standard 90-degree leg raise, where we're here. We're coming down, we're just coming straight up, you're stopping at 90 degrees. First thing, I want you to think about posterior tilting the hips here, pull them back, all right? Suck your abs in, keep them nice and strong. Now, as opposed to stopping right here and coming down, where eventually we get that arch, right? That overextension, what we're gonna do is pull those hips back, and if you're doing this right, you were shirtless, you're probably gonna be making a fart sound. Okay, so we wanna lift those hips up into that flexion. So come up, crunch up, control down. you don't even need to come all the way down. So this is more like a reverse crunch as opposed to a leg raise. Up and then control down. That head can be up or down. Control down. You want to make it harder, go into what's called a candlestick, where we kick up and then control as slow as you can on the way down. If you want to, you can bring those legs down, but we're really focusing on the spinal flexion motion. Now, a modifier to that, we can take the feet here, squeeze the feet together, which will engage those adductors, which will stabilize your pelvis. We can come out, pull in, and out, and in. So yeah, that back is farting. Crunch it in. Spinal flexion right there. Woo, that feels good. Now, here's something where we can bring it up a little bit. You can take a bench, hands behind or in front, and you want to go into that flexion again. So come out, squeeze the feet together. You can cross them over, crunch in, back out, crunch in, exhale in, inhale back. Once again, working towards that spinal flexion. Now, even more advanced movements. I'm sure you've seen a leg raise machine where people are just coming up and hitting that 90 degrees, right? What we want to do is try to get those hips off of the pad. Once again, so we're going into flexion. Yes, I know what that looks like, okay? Now, you can take your legs, we can kick them straight up so the hips come off and control down. Come off, control down. Modifier for that, bend the knees, start them bent, come up and down. And down. You can extend all the way down. We can come right through here. Next one, want to get really fancy with it. Just give you better views. Now you can do a hanging leg raise with this, where you're hanging, or you can have a flexed arm here, okay? I'm going to take these off. There we go. Now, since I'm very tall, built like a gorilla, I'm not going to show you like this, but this is your hanging leg raise. I'm going to come up so it's engaged the biceps and lats a little bit as well. So I'm here, I'm going to kick the feet up above my head and control down in that flex position. Come back to the starting point and come back up. So we're here, up, control, slow, 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 back up, slowly. That's it. That's how we properly do a leg raise movement, so you can actually feel the working muscles as opposed to think that you're feeling it work. I'm Joey Thurman. Thanks for being here. Whew, that's kind of tiring, right? Follow me on all social media channels at Joey Thurman Fit. Remember, you see people doing leg raises, think, what's happening there? Are they just working the hip flexor complex, or are they getting that spinal flexion? Once you know why you're doing something, then you can take all of those exercises and movements and make them more efficient, effective. Cheers, be well. My marker's not that good.